I'm Rebecca Phillips, and I make bold moves.
I'm Tori May, and I make bold moves.
I'm Rosalind Stewart, and I make bold moves.
I'm Emily Dolphy with the Department of Public Works, and I make bold moves.
I'm Melanie Ramos, and I'm a bold mover.
I'm Priscilla Wright, and I make bold moves.
I'm Montel Marable. I'm with Parks and Recreation, and I'm a bold mover.
I am Quanisha Vincent, and I make bold moves.
I'm Tish Evans, and I make bold moves.
My name is Kiara Jordan with the Department of Budget and Strategic Planning, and I make bold moves.
I'm Molly Reinhart with Befriend, and I make bold moves.
I am Makai Mitchell, and I make bold moves.
I'm Dion Wright, and I'm a bold mover.
My name is Milan Chuan, Virginia Asian Chamber of Commerce. I make bold moves.
We all have a part to play in the progress of the city. Richmond is moving forward. We're making big, bold moves.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's State of the City address. My name is Marlon Buckner, and I'm the Interim Executive Director of the Black History Museum and Cultural Center of Virginia, headquartered here in Richmond. And on behalf of our chairman, Dr. Monroe E. Harris, and our entire Board of Trustees, I want to welcome those of you here at our lovely Main Street station this evening, as well as those of you who are watching this on live stream. I'd also like to recognize the public servants to whom we all owe a great debt of gratitude for their willingness to serve in such difficult and uncertain times. Members of the General Assembly, members of Richmond City Council, our indefatigable superintendent of schools, the school board, and the mayor's cabinet. These are difficult and uncertain times, and it reminds me of a century-old saying, "Cometh the hour, cometh the man." I'm reminded of this phrase because I've worked with and for elected officials for decades, and I can say categorically that the person I am honored to introduce tonight is the person we need for these trying times. LeVar Stoney's election in 2016 represented a generational shift, not only in how Richmonders wanted to be governed, but at least as importantly, how we saw ourselves. LeVar's candidacy and first election turned the page for Richmond at a critical moment in our nation's history when millions of Americans had, for the very first time, begun to see themselves in our nation's civic life. His election came at a time and represented great hope. Hope for the expansion of opportunity for all Richmonders in education, in housing, in healthcare, and more. It is that hope that is the essence of LeVar's vision of one Richmond. But as we all know, hope alone is not a strategy. You have to have a plan. And that's what we're here tonight to learn about. After all, improved transportation doesn't just happen. Housing opportunities don't just magically appear, and the roads don't pave themselves. These things can only happen when clear goals are set and milestones are met. That's the hard, tough, day-to-day work of running a city. It means collaborating with City Council to craft solutions that work across all districts. LeVar does. It means attracting transformative economic development projects to the city to create jobs and opportunity and community wealth. LeVar has. It means building new schools where students need them most. 3 have been built on his watch thus far. It means putting science first to create masking and vaccination strategies designed to save lives. LeVar does. And finally, it means staring down the legacy of racial inequality and finally and once and for all saying no more. When too many elected leaders were running for cover, LeVar stepped into the breach. He did that because, like many of us, LeVar understands what life can look like when the deck is stacked against you. Like many of us, LeVar learned at an early age that a lot of times just getting out of bed in the morning takes courage because it is clear that the world is not on your side. Like many of us, LeVar was a kid whom odds makers might not have given the best chance. But when you've grown up that way, like he has, you become resilient and you develop a thick skin. I've seen firsthand how that resilience is built into LeVar's leadership style. And I can tell you from personal experience, our mayor has an exceptionally thick skin. In my travels, I oftentimes hear the phrase, past performance is no guarantee of future success. But when I think about the city's performance to date under Mayor Stoney's leadership, I'm left with one simple question. Did you ever seriously think in your lifetime you would see those Confederate monuments come down? Folks, our city is a better place now than it was before. It is a more equitable place, and we are moving forward from its painful and too often brutal past toward a far brighter future. I'm fortunate to travel across the country, and I can tell you the nation is taking stock of what we are doing here. I love telling folks around the country that I live in Richmond. But of course, no leader can do these things alone. So as you listen to Mayor Stoney this evening outline his plans, I want you to ask yourselves, where do you fit in helping make us one Richmond? What can you do to help us all come together to be one Richmond? How can you contribute to making one Richmond? Richmond, be proud of your city. I know I am. And it is with that same pride that I have the high honor and distinct privilege of introducing to you the 80th and youngest mayor of Richmond, Virginia, LeVar M. Stoney.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. And let's give a warm thank you to Marlon Buckner, Interim Executive Director of the Black History Museum. Marlon, my friend, thank you for that introduction. My fellow Richmonders, it is with great pride and hope that I speak with you this evening. This past year has not been easy. From the pandemic to the everyday issues facing our city, we've had to overcome immeasurable challenges and make difficult decisions. We've had to learn to cope with circumstances beyond our control. And we've had to do it in one of the most divisive political moments in modern history. When I look at 2021, I see resilience. I see a Richmond that was bold in the face of adversity. I see a community that chose to thrive in spite of the challenges we faced. I'm grateful to be here with you this evening. We may not be fully in person, but we have an audience here tonight made up of the folks who spend their hours fighting for Richmond's future. And I'd like to give my thanks to the members of Richmond City Council, the Richmond Public Schools, and the Chief Administrative Officer, and also members of my executive cabinet. Thank you all for what you do for the great city of Richmond, and I want you to know I appreciate you. Thank you. If I could summarize the administration's approach in one sentence, I'd say we are about the fix. And I can say with confidence that we're making progress. Some big things have happened in our city over the past year. We're moving forward, and I want to share some milestones we've achieved and some of what's to come. So let's talk about housing. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. We've got apartment complexes in black and brown neighborhoods with infestations of rodents, roaches, and bed bugs. We've got children playing on floors soaked in wastewater. We have families sleeping under ceilings covered in mold. These are conditions that any reasonable person would find intolerable. And yet we've got tenants afraid that if they complain to their landlords, it would only result in raised rent, or evictions. I remember living in an apartment with my grandmother when I was younger, and she would never complain about things that needed to be fixed because of her fear of retaliation. As many of you know, I don't come from money, and my story is not unique in Richmond. See, I had help. There were government programs in place that changed my circumstance. Instead of being hungry, I had access to free school lunches. Instead of dropping out, I became the first in my family to graduate high school and the first in my family to graduate college, which was made possible by scholarships and financial aid. Helping those who need it is what governing is about. And right now, the folks living in these conditions need our help, which is why I am proud we've revitalized and retooled Richmond City's code enforcement team. They are identifying and addressing neighborhood safety and code violations, ensuring landlords are living up to their obligations and being responsive to tenant complaints. This work is also important to ensure we prevent tragedies like the recent building fires in Philadelphia and New York City. So, if you or someone you know is experiencing these issues, please reach out to us by calling 311. I want you to know that we're listening, and we have your back, and we want to help. We want to work with you, your landlord, your neighbor, and do whatever's necessary to resolve these safety issues. And we will. We've also come a long way these past few years in addressing homelessness. We've approached it with compassion, and now more Richmonders than ever before are receiving care through our emergency shelter. Now, it's a far cry from the days of housing people in the old courtrooms of the decaying public safety building. We've also instituted a homelessness liaison, Ms. Diane Wilmore. She's doing an amazing job connecting those in need with the resources we have available, and I want to thank her for taking care of some of our most vulnerable residents. Thank you, Diane. Our Homelessness Advisory Council recommended that we establish a human service resource center for residents. So we listened. This project is moving forward and will become operational later this year. I'm also thrilled about our allocation of American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds, to address some of these issues as well. We're going to provide $10 million per year for affordable housing projects in perpetuity. This historic funding will represent over a 1,200% increase for affordable housing since I took office. We're going to provide $6.8 million for the Creighton Court redevelopment project. And we're providing $5.5 million for the Highland Grove redevelopment project. But the housing conversation doesn't stop at fixing deteriorating living conditions. We know that in order for Richmond to thrive, we must seek more dignified affordable housing and new development. Ladies and gentlemen, we are building a future filled with more groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings and dignified housing for all of our residents. That's what we are all about, which is why I'm excited that we have introduced our Equitable and Affordable Housing Plan for City Council's consideration. This plan is several years in the making and takes into consideration the input of residents, housing experts, advocates, and landlords to ensure we create a diversified housing stock. Our aim is not to just have a place for everyone to live in the city. It's to have an affordable, dignified, clean, and safe place to live in the city of Richmond. And folks, that's why we are so bullish on our Richmond 300 plan, a guide for growth that creates a more equitable, sustainable, and beautiful future for all Richmonders. The goal is to achieve this vision by 2037, the 300th birthday of our great city. Now picture this. In 2037, 6-year-old Isabella lives in a home that is affordable to her single parent, Alex. Her baby sibling, Miguel, attends a nearby daycare. Isabella attends a highly rated, socioeconomically diverse public elementary school. Alex has a job that pays a living wage and has the option to commute by transit. Isabella's uncle, Jack, and his fiancée, Mel, just moved to Richmond from D.C. to work in the robust startup scene. They live in an apartment nearby. Isabella's grandparents, Jerome and Tanya, recently downsized and now live in an apartment above Isabella's garage. See, our goal is to have all members of Isabella's family thriving in Richmond because they can easily walk, bike, ride the bus, or drive to see friends and family, shop at stores, go to work, play in parks, and go to school. That's the kind of future we are working towards here in Richmond. And the big, bold moves in the Richmond 300 Master Plan are going to get us there. We can't continue to think of transit, the economy, housing, education, safety, healthcare, growth, etc., as issues in silos. They're all interconnected. And when you start to think about them in that way, you really start to see the whole picture. And that's why it is paramount Richmond continues on a forward path, on a planned and purposeful path. As I mentioned earlier, I was lucky enough to be part of a school lunch program that kept me fed. My family didn't have the resources. There was also an after-school program that I was eligible for. But unfortunately, in a home with only one vehicle in a community with no public transit options, I relied on the generosity of friends and their parents to get me from school to home. Having the after-school program wasn't enough because despite the program existing, it wasn't accessible to everyone. The beauty of our vision for Richmond families is that we can clearly see how equity and sustainability-centered actions can result in a city where all Richmonders have every opportunity to flourish. And working together with City Council, we will get there. Folks, Richmond is growing, and that is overwhelmingly a good thing for our city. There were over 32,000 new residents between the years 2000 and 2019, and the current trajectory continues. We'll have another 30,000 by 2037. But a perpetual problem with growth is that far too often, the community's poorest residents get left behind. Poverty remains very concentrated in certain areas in our city. We must work to ensure that every Richmonder enjoys the benefits of our prosperity. Growing our economy is one way we do that. Despite another year in a global pandemic, Richmond area employers added about 3,000 new jobs from November to December 2021. And according to the recent Virginia Employment Commission report, Richmond's unemployment rate dropped from 5.6% in December 2020 down to 3.1% in December 2021. Now, we lost a great opportunity last year to bring 1,500 good-paying jobs to Richmonders who needed them the most. But we will not despair. We will continue to push forward and fight for opportunities for economic mobility and prosperity. And to that end, I commend the Richmond City Council for passing a resolution to revisit the casino project this November. And if the referendum is successful, we will utilize revenues from that project to modernize city and school infrastructure and provide a 2-cent reduction on the real estate tax. Now, let me remind you what the one casino project offers. We're talking about capital investment over $560 million, which can be spent on improvement projects in Richmond City schools and the city of Richmond. An influx of 1,500 jobs for those who need them the most. $16 million to support local community organizations which assist with decreasing the wealth gap. $325,000 to support transit mobility solutions, which creates more access. We put in requirements to put money aside to help support those struggling with addictions. And all of this without a dime of city funding. Tonight, I urge members of the General Assembly to remove any legislation that would prohibit Richmond from acting on this great opportunity. This project is about the people of Richmond. It is about providing security, relief, jobs, and investment, which leads to a brighter future for the entire city. But our efforts to grow and create economic opportunity do not stop there. Our city center plan is also moving forward. We are redeveloping downtown Richmond to create an innovation district anchored by institutions like VCU and the Biotech Park. We were recently awarded grant funding that will allow us to invest in our city's future, accelerating the growth of pharmaceutical manufacturing and our research and development cluster in downtown Richmond. The redevelopment of the old public safety building is also moving forward as well. This year, we will begin the environmental remediation inside, and soon the building will come down and a new construction will start. These projects in our downtown core will impact the entire Richmond region. The members of City Council deserve credit for their support of these projects and of our overall economic development strategy. Working together, we are accomplishing great things, and I value and appreciate our continued partnership. Our city is promoting long-term economic advancement and sustainability. That means jobs, innovation, and opportunity all working together to uplift the people of Richmond. These are concrete steps being taken, and they deserve celebration, folks. We're also seeking proposals for the redevelopment of the city's 60-plus acre Diamond District. Our vision is a mixed-income, mixed-use urban village anchored by a new baseball stadium for our Richmond Flying Squirrels. And let's not forget the CoStar campus expansion. We're talking 2,000 new jobs and almost $500 million in investment. See, we're sending a message to the rest of the country that Richmond, Virginia is an exciting and attractive place to live, work, and prosper. You see, Richmond isn't just growing, we're growing intentionally, practically, and with purpose. From large business to small business, we are moving Richmond forward. That is why I am thrilled that we recently launched the AAA Business Assistance Program using our ARPA funds. This program, led by the city's Office of Minority Business Development, is designed to provide professional, targeted assistance to local small businesses recovering from the consequences of the pandemic. From barbershops to antique stores to tech startups to your favorite local restaurant, it's critical that we support these pillars of our economy and continue to make Richmond an attractive place to run and start a business. Now, a big theme of these projects is that they all lead to jobs. In fiscal year 2021, we created over 1,000 new jobs in our great city, but we need to keep pushing. We need to make sure that our economy continues to recover and grow. See, your government is working, and despite a worldwide pandemic, we continue to make tremendous strides. You know, when I became your mayor, one of my top priorities was to get our city's financial house in order. Today, your city remains highly rated by the credit rating agencies, and under the leadership of Chief Administrative Officer Lincoln Saunders, we've gained some amazing new team members who will take us to even greater heights. They include Sabrina Joy Hogg as our new Deputy Chief Administrative Officer of Finance and Administration, Jason May as our new Budget Director, and Sheila White as our new Finance Director. Let's give these hard-working city leaders a round of applause. I'd like to shift focus for a moment now to talk about public safety. Gun violence has plagued this city for far too long. We've made progress, but we need to do more, a lot more. No mother should have to bury her child because we haven't done enough. Our families deserve better, and that's the bottom line. And I know we can do better, which is why we're focused on prevention. Last year, we established We Matter RVA, an after-school program running in 2 Richmond middle schools, River City and Martin Luther King Jr. Tonight, I'm excited to share some positive feedback from parents. We've heard comments such as, quote, "My child comes home happy and excited about everything she is doing and learning, and the program is a success. I love how my son gets excited to attend the sessions," end quote. This is the kind of support that creates lasting change for our kids and their families, which is why we must continue to utilize evidence-based solutions that tackle the root causes of crime. So, as I announced last week, our plan is to partner with the organization Next Up to help allocate $1 million in ARPA funds focusing on youth initiatives. Specifically, utilizing practices supported by the CDC to improve outcomes for our kids. Our main areas of focus will be after-school programming, parenting support, mental health support for children, tutoring, and mentorships. With assistance of our newly hired community safety coordinator, we will ensure our holistic gun violence prevention and intervention framework is intentionally implemented within our community. But ladies and gentlemen, this is not all we are doing to address gun violence. We are fixing infrastructure, investing in quality housing, supporting child care opportunities, expanding access to parks and community centers, and addressing health inequities. These are fixes that address root causes of crime. We must also support law enforcement and make certain they have all the resources necessary to combat violent crime in our city. That is why we have provided bonuses using ARPA funds, and we will propose competitive salary increases in the upcoming budget. The Richmond Police Department is currently working on new officer recruitment practices, seeking more and diverse applicants, and exploring how they can remove barriers such as testing requirements, the inability to take your car home, and assistance with student loans. And I applaud them for that. Chief Smith, in collaboration with our Human Services Division, is also actively recruiting 3 additional violence interrupters who will be hired from the Richmond community to help mitigate conflict. Last year, the brave men and women of the RPD seized 947 firearms citywide, 547 of which were stolen. That's almost 1,000 illegal guns that are no longer in the hands of criminals. The Richmond Police Department deserve our greatest gratitude and our full respect. Thank you for the hard work over the last year. They've also instituted new initiatives like Operation Red Ball, a task force of Richmond detectives and officers working to preempt violence in the city. They play a critical role in making necessary arrests and recovering firearms. And to build on these efforts, I'm proud to announce that we are dedicating $500,000 in ARPA funds to establish a gun buyback program. This will create incentives for folks to turn in operational firearms, reducing the likelihood of them being used in violent crime. Councilwoman Lambert and Councilwoman Lynch have done an incredible job collaborating with Chief Smith on this important effort, and they deserve our thanks. It's simple. In order to prosper, our city needs to be safe. That means safe at home, safe at work, and safe at school. And that means we must be tough on violent crime and tough on the root causes of crime. We must also acknowledge that the relationship between our police and our community is a two-way street. We need both to be aligned in the mission of community safety. That is why it is critical we develop a civilian review board that works for our city. I will be remiss if I did not thank the council-appointed members of the CRB task force for their contributions to this process thus far. And after careful examination of their report, our administration sought additional expertise to guide this critical process. We hired Dr. Will Pelfrey, a nationally recognized professor with an expertise in policing, to help design a civilian review board that fits the needs of Richmond. His work assisting communities in this way across the country is impressive, and I look forward to sharing his recommendations with the City Council in the coming weeks. Unfortunately, public safety matters are not the only life and death issue we face today. Let's face it, no one thought that we'd still be living in the COVID-19 pandemic in 2022. The trajectory of COVID remains an unknown, and we have no choice but to continue to persevere. The people of this great city are strong. We're doers. And because of that, I remain optimistic and hopeful. Thankfully, some things are in our control, like the ability to choose to wear a mask and get the vaccine. In the city of Richmond, to date, approximately 68% of people 18 years or older have received at least one dose of the vaccine, and we've provided over 55,000 booster shots. We have some of the finest healthcare workers in the world whose efforts to get Richmonders vaccinated and boosted have been unwavering. These folks are our heroes. They've saved countless lives, and we continue to owe them our greatest respect. Dr. Danny Avula, who has been appointed by Governor Youngkin as the new Commissioner of the Department of Social Services for the Commonwealth of Virginia. He too deserves our utmost thanks for his leadership during the first 2 years of this pandemic. And I want to personally thank Danny from the bottom of my heart for standing next to me week in and week out, preaching the gospel about keeping our community safe and healthy. Danny, best of luck at the state level, and thank you for all you've done. Doctors from across the country have pleaded with Americans to wear masks to prevent the spread of Omicron. They have done so with science backing them the entire way. There is no other way to put it. Governor Youngkin's executive order going against the medical community was not only wrong, but dangerous. Thankfully, we have RPS Superintendent Jason Cameras, who had the courage to keep our kids safe. Thank you, Jason. You know, I recently read a report by UNICEF that estimates that this generation of students now risk losing $17 trillion in lifetime earnings as a result of COVID-19 pandemic-related school closures worldwide. That statistic shocked me to my core and reminded me who we are fighting for. Richmond has to remain open. Schools have to remain open, and businesses have to remain open. And we stay open by following the current science, vaccinations, and masks. We must put science above politics. You know, folks, we can't change the past, no matter how much we'd like to. But we can control how it impacts our future. On June 14th of last year, the city's equity agenda was passed unanimously by the City Council. I said it before and I'll say it again. This administration is about to fix. We are making bold decisions that improve the quality of life for all of our residents, no matter your zip code, no matter your place of worship, or who you love. We can take concrete steps towards a better and more equitable future, and that's what we're doing. We are moving forward with a number of the priority areas within the equity agenda, many of which have been discussed already this evening. But some additional highlights include establishing the first ever comprehensive health equity trust fund, partnering with the Richmond City Health District, addressing substance abuse by introducing a resolution on February 14th that declares opioid overdoses a public health crisis and commits Richmond to participate in a regional metropolitan spike alert program. This alert will notify registered members of the public when spikes and overdoses are detected and provide information on resources for treatment and recovery. We're also ensuring equitable transit and mobility for all Richmonders. We will construct red bus lanes along the Post route this spring. And as long as I'm your mayor, riding the bus in Richmond will be free. Lastly, we are in the final stretch of the development of RVA Green 2050, our climate action plan, which we look forward to sharing with everyone this fall. Like I said before, your government is working. Our policies remain focused and they remain driven. And we are tackling the issues everyday Richmonders are facing, and we are bringing the fix. And it's not all big picture stuff either. When I was first elected, the phone would ring off the hook with people asking for potholes and sidewalks to be fixed. And today I can tell you that the phone is ringing a lot less. Now, moving forward, we have to continue to focus on the small things in life that still challenge our city. And the speech has disappeared on the screen, but that's okay. At the end of the day, our city is focused on the small things and the big things that bring us together. And as we continue to move forward as a city, we have to focus on future projects that will allow the city to continue to move forward. One thing that I'm very, very proud of is the fact that Bobby Vincent, the director of the Department of Public Works, we used to fill 25,000 potholes a year. And now we're paving roads all across the city, particularly going to neighborhoods that have not been touched before. You talk to Reva Trammell in Southside, and she will tell you that Davy Gardens has not been touched in 30 years. But under our watch, we've gotten to Davy Gardens. We also know that when we wrap our arms around our families, they succeed. This is really what it's all about at the end of the day, right? We want families to thrive in our city. We're putting in the work today so that when our children grow up, they inherit a city filled with opportunity. Every child deserves the opportunity to succeed in life, which is why right now our focus is on removing the barriers. See, in 1967, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stated in his final book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, that, quote, those at the lowest economic level, the poor, white, and Negro, the aged and chronically ill, are traditionally unorganized and therefore have little ability to force the necessary growth in their income. They stagnate or become even poorer in relation to the larger society, end quote. He opined then that guaranteed income could be a remedy for poverty. Now fast forward some 50 plus years later, and we've created the Richmond Resilience Initiative, a pilot program that will continue through 2022 in which participants receive guaranteed income. When folks make just enough money to no longer qualify for federal aid, but still don't earn a living wage, they fall off a cliff. So we're providing participants $500 a month to spend however they see fit. See, our families need to come first. That's plain and simple. We fully funded our schools and built 3 new schools in black and brown neighborhoods, and we're not stopping there. This administration proposed and City Council approved a plan to dedicate $81 million of Richmond's ARPA funds to support our children and families. We're starting with community centers, which will serve 100,000 Richmond residents in high poverty areas, all within walking distance of the centers. In addition to these centers, we will soon announce a grant opportunity to expand access to high-quality child care. Quality and accessible care at this age is needed if we want to nurture our youngest Richmonders. When critical development is happening, kids need to be interacted with and engaged with, challenged and encouraged. And lastly, we're laying the groundwork for universal pre-K. We're putting in the research now to learn exactly what we need to do to address the systemic barriers preventing access for all Richmond's children. Some kids start out with a built-in advantage. I know all about that. And that's just not fair. Every kid deserves to start school with the tools they need to be successful. These investments reflect our ongoing commitment to multi-generational wealth building, not only ensuring our youngest residents thrive, but that their parents and caregivers thrive as well. This all comes back to governing with a purpose. We are removing the systemic chains, link by link, until all Richmonders have the opportunity to succeed. You know, as a black man, it's not lost on me that I speak to you tonight standing in Shockoe Bottom. Richmond has historically been known as the capital of the Confederacy. But folks, we're changing that. Richmond is now emerging into a new era filled with compassion and hope. We're becoming more known for our inclusivity, our innovation, our dynamism, our diversity. My fellow Richmonders, watching the removal of the Robert E. Lee Monument was one of the most important moments in our city's history. Today, Richmond stands unshackled by its past. A black man serves as your mayor. A black woman serves as city council president. An Indian American man directs our Department of Health. And a Jewish man leads our schools. We are in the midst of a racial reckoning in this country. And when the history books look back and tell the story of today, it gives me great comfort that Richmond will be on the right side of history. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight you've heard the sum of all of our hopes. Despite all the fear and uncertainty in the world, we remain blessed to live in one of the best cities in America. And I promise you that your city government will remain focused on the fix, and we will make bold moves to improve the quality of life for all Richmonders. Thank all of you for joining me tonight, both here and at home, and may God bless the great city of Richmond.